SpaceX founder and CEO Elon Musk plans to send two individuals to orbit the moon by just 2018, which is next year. This is both exciting and interesting for a number of reasons. One of those reasons is that while humans have engaged in space exploration over the past several decades, most of that exploration has been done through governmental space agencies like NASA, the European Space Agency, etc. So, if Elon is successful in this specific regard, which is orbiting the moon, this will be the first time a private company, not a governmental agency, would be successful in such a venture. Space.com reports to us that, quote, the private spaceflight company will use its Falcon Heavy rocket to send the two paying passengers into space aboard one of the company's Dragon spacecraft. The two private citizens, who've not yet been named, approached SpaceX about taking a trip around the moon and have already paid a significant deposit for the cost of the mission, according to a statement from the company. Like the Apollo astronauts before them, these individuals will travel into space carrying the hopes and dreams of all mankind, driven by the universal spirit of exploration. I found it pretty interesting that, according to this article, these individuals paid a deposit after being vetted, of course, for this mission. And it's unclear how much they paid, but I read another article about NASA and its costs, and it reported that NASA spends something like $80 million per astronaut when launching them into space and related ventures. I guess that's for training, to put them on that spacecraft and all the equipment. And I don't know if that's an appropriate ballpark for SpaceX, but when we consider that SpaceX is much smaller and less experienced than NASA, being a government agency and getting more money, it has a smaller wealth of resources to extract for its missions. So maybe it's not that surprising that these individuals are paying a huge amount, if that's the case when it becomes uncovered. But one thing that's pretty interesting is that it's going to be a 2-week-long mission. And Elon spoke on this, and the article reports that he said, quote, this would be a long loop around the moon. It would skim the surface of the moon, go quite a bit further down deep space, and then loop back into Earth, said Musk. So I'm guessing distance-wise, maybe 300,000 or 400,000 miles. And that's a pretty long distance, obviously. But another important element of this story is that even though SpaceX is planning to obviously conduct this mission, it's actually going to come after one other pretty important mission, and that's when SpaceX flies NASA astronauts to the International Space Station as part of the Commercial Crew Program. And quote, right now, SpaceX is planning to make an uncrewed flight of its crew-carrying Dragon spacecraft to the space station this year, and its first crewed flights are expected to happen in mid-2018, according to Musk. That means that the Falcon 9 and Dragon Crew capsule will be approved for human spaceflight by NASA before the moon mission takes place. So that's obviously actually pretty important, because since SpaceX actually hasn't transported people yet into space, it's probably a good idea that they at least conduct one human or / manned mission into space before going to the moon. And obviously transporting people to the space station is a much closer distance and I guess a safer trial, for lack of a better word, because if they can't get people to the space station, it's probably going to be a pretty bad idea for them to conduct a manned mission around the moon. So I obviously think that they can probably do this. NASA obviously trusts them. So perhaps this is a pretty good stepping stone for them. Once they can take people to the space station, then the moon can kind of be their next goal. This is a pretty exciting story, and it's very big news for space exploration and obviously SpaceX. And Musk has said the moon will contribute to his organization's ultimate goal of establishing permanent Mars colonies. And the goal for SpaceX, quote, from its founding in 2002, has been to accelerate space exploration, ultimately with the idea of self-sustaining civilizations on Mars and making humanity multiplanetary, he said. So a critical step along the way is getting to know what it's like to have people in deep space. So there you have it. There's obviously a very grand vision that Elon has in mind, and it's quite clear from this story that getting to the moon is one step of that journey. After I read this article and I went through all the quotes, probably the most powerful and compelling message, for me at least, in this story was the quote referencing the human desire to learn and understand and explore the universe. And that very much sums up why I'm a pretty strong space advocate. Because I think once we understand space and our planet and our universe, we can get a better understanding of ourselves and what's important to us. So, do we want to keep quibbling over money, land, territory, religion, culture, etc.? Or do we want to be a species that's united and very much plans and executes goals in the hopes that we can create a better life for the human race, not just Americans or Chinese or Russians or Italians, etc. And obviously, getting people to think bigger beyond their limited confines is a pretty big venture of itself. And I don't really know the answer to that. It could be education. I think another pretty important and valuable solution could be space exploration. You know, once you kind of leave the planet, not saying I have obviously, but I imagine that once you leave the planet and you see that glowing ball, you just see the continents in the ocean. You don't see borders. You don't see how we're divided. You basically see a unified planet. And if this industry can come to fruition and take as many people into space and show them that we all live on the same planet, we're all here together, perhaps that can change how they view the world and its problems. Now, that's somewhat idealistic, and I acknowledge that, but I do think it's possible. And to be honest, I don't really care if NASA does this or if SpaceX does it. I'm just very happy that we have people like Elon who are willing to take on this kind of risk and help bring space to us, I guess, and help not just his organization thrive and develop. He's doing a lot to kind of expand our presence in this galaxy. I mean, I don't think we're really going to be confined to Earth, or can be, given what we're doing to this planet. But the fact that we have someone who can think bigger and transcend beyond Earth, I think that's a pretty big deal. But that's just my take on this. If you have other opinions, if you have other insight, if you're better educated on this type of stuff than I am, please enlighten me and maybe enlighten other viewers who are watching this video. Now, normally I'm on camera, but I've been having some issues with my camera. I just moved into a new place. I got a new computer, so I had some technical issues, but those will be resolved quite quickly, I hope. But please, as always, like and subscribe, leave insightful comments, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much.